Craig, the debut of Hard Knocks last night. The season premiere following the Detroit Lions throughout training camp and into these preseason weeks as we get ready for a new 2022 NFL regular season. As they are the focus, all of the public love will surround Detroit. Will there be a Hard Knocks bump for the Fighting Dan Campbells? Let's put it into perspective here, Craig, where the Lions are from that odds market entering 2022. You see the record last year, 3-13-1, just 3 wins a season ago. But Craig, what should stand out to you about this straight up record is the against the spread number that you do not see. 11-6 against the spread last year. The third best cover percentage in the entirety of the National Football League. Part of the optimism maybe around Hard Knocks and maybe that optimism for a team that knows how to fight for its head coach, keeping games close and competitive. And Craig, if you're covering numbers, the hope is the following season, those close games where you barely lost but covered turn into wins. Again, 11-6 against the number, booked as an underdog in all 17 regular season games last year. The win total this year, Craig, is 6.5. That's a pretty good jump up from just 3 last year, and the over has the juice at -125. You see how long the odds are in the respective future markets of the NFC Championship and the Super Bowl. We're not saying the Lions are a contender for either of those tickets you'll see there, and Detroit still plus 410 to make the NFC postseason, tied to the third longest odds in that conference. But Craig, it's the focus on the win total based on the results last year, and if that can be the stark improvement for 2022. Well, look at where the Lions are within the NFC North as well. Earlier this offseason, Craig, earlier this summer, moving past the Chicago Bears for the third best price at plus 950. The Bears, the longest number out of the 4 teams in the NFC North, but both Detroit and Chicago, relatively long numbers here, especially in comparison to the Green Bay Packers. -155, the heavy odds-on favorites to win the NFC North for a 4th straight year. In fact, Craig, the Green Bay Packers have dominated this division, which should not really surprise anybody with Aaron Rodgers over the last decade plus. Green Bay has won 8 of the last 11 NFC North divisional championships. Although we have seen some market movement on the Minnesota Vikings in a positive way. This was around 3-1 earlier this summer, now 60 cents off at plus 240. And the Packers at its peak was a -170 price, 15 cents back slightly, but still a substantial odds-on favorite. So, Craig, there is optimism, though, around Detroit, and there will be a lot of focus, not just during Hard Knocks, but on their second-year head coach, Dan Campbell, a walking soundbite, a man that eats kneecaps for breakfast and wants to bring your opposing team to a landfill to play you in a football game full of garbage. And here is Mr. Campbell, who had a great display last night in the debut of Hard Knocks, leaving us feeling inspired and ready to run through any brick wall in our sight. 16-1 right now for Dan Campbell to win the NFL Coach of the Year. As you can see, Craig, tied for the third longest odds alongside 3 other head coaches. Doug Peterson, his first year in Jacksonville. Kevin O'Connell, his first year in Minnesota, his first year as an NFL head coach. And the same for Nathaniel Hackett, his first year as a head man in the National Football League out in the Mile High City. Brandon Staley, once again, Craig, is one of the co-favorites to be the NFL Coach of the Year. That was the same thing last year. And Brian Dable, the first-year head man in New York, both co-favorites at 14-1. But Craig, from that historic perspective, one thing you must know about the NFL Coach of the Year market is the last 5 winners of this award have all brought their teams to the playoffs. And 3 of those 5 most recent winners have been a first-year head coach. So even in the first-year head coach realm, Brian Dable, Doug Peterson at least in Jacksonville, Kevin O'Connell, reaching the postseason is pretty much a prerequisite to win this award and cash one of these long tickets. Sean McVay did it with the Rams, Matt Nagy with the Chicago Bears, and most recently, Kevin Stefanski in 2020 with the Cleveland Browns. So even, Craig, as the optimism and hope springs eternal for the Detroit Lions, you saw the win total. It's 6.5. Even if the Lions go over that, 7, 8 wins, but miss the postseason, it's not the greatest chance for Dan Campbell, as charismatic as he can be, to cash that 16-1 number to win NFL Coach of the Year. So it's the Hard Knocks bump, Craig, but putting all of that into perspective for Detroit entering 2022. Good teams win, great teams cover, and the Fighting Dan Campbells can fight. That's certainly something we can say.